You could always edit it anyway.
I said that before I hit the button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 green checks. We are good to go. All right. What's up, everybody? And welcome to the Mile High Roundtable. Wow. Last Sunday did definitely not go as was planned. So in today's episode, we're going to go over the Falcons game, even though we don't want to. Preview the Raiders game. Plus, we're going to cover any sort of Denver Broncos news that happened over the last couple days. And we're back. I'm glad the mics are off during that because I was hacking up a storm. All right. So before we get into anything, we want to make sure that you know we are streaming on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and on Twitch. I said I was going to look into it, and I lied because I still don't know how to get into Twitch. So on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, turn notifications on. On Twitter, follow us at MHRT Podcast. Leave us any questions, comments, give your concerns to Glenn. Don't want to deal with him. And on Facebook, like and follow, and you can comment on there as well. So let's talk about the wonderful game that we had on Monday.
Well, you know what we could do is we could take the first half of the pod off and then really ramp it up the second half.
Well, see, we'd have to kind of like come in like spotty and on the 3/4 of the way through, and then in the last like 10 minutes, just floor it into the podcast. Richie, I think that's how you say it. And then my son Landon are in. Thank you very much. So let's start with what I think was probably the biggest problem, other than cornerbacks. We'll talk about that later. The offensive line. And I think a lot of that had to do with Glasgow being out and then Dotson going down. I think that Jake Rogers didn't play bad. The interior was terrible. And I think most of it comes down to Cushenberry. I know he's a rookie, but good night. Like I kind of wonder if this is why they waited so long in training camp to get him out there with the first team. Because we were having that big debate over the 3 centers that they were switching in and out, and wondering why they didn't just give it to Cushenberry. I'm kind of wondering if this is why, because he's not been good.
No, I mean he's a rookie. You can expect him to struggle all season. He's the guy that calls the signal on the line. I'm pretty sure he's due to have a good game sooner or later, but. Like I said, he's probably the only one on that offensive line that you can cut some slack because he's still learning, basically welcome to the NFL type of stuff season he's having. But Schlottman, he's exactly what he is. He's playing like a backup. And, the holes weren't there opening. The running backs couldn't run on the outside either. So the running game was pretty much non-existent. And it seemed like no matter how much Pat Shurmur and the offense tried to run it, it wasn't happening because they couldn't get anything going. And as good as Garrett Bowles is, he can't do it all on his own. So Glasgow has been activated off of COVID, so Schlottman should go back into his Pokeball. And
that's a new one. I haven't heard that before.
And as far as I kind of caught the end of the first quarter when I got home on Sunday for the game. So I didn't actually see what happened to Dotson. I just saw that Jake Rogers was out on the field, and Dotson never recovered from whatever injury he suffered.
He didn't even play very much. It was only like a couple plays, and then he was out. It wasn't even a lot. I think it was ankle, wasn't it?
Groin, and he has a hand injury. So,
I was wrong.
Vic said today he doesn't even know if he's going to. He'll know by the end of the week if he's going to play this weekend. Well, the end of the week is tomorrow.
Yeah, he didn't practice today.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
It's not a good sign.
No.
But I
Now-
mean, okay, so I was going to say real quick, Cushenberry has been playing bad ever since they got Dotson in there. So I kind of wonder if Glasgow being out was the reason why Cushenberry was so bad this game, because he hasn't been that bad in the other games, and they had running lanes, and this one just
He's been
Well-
mediocre. I mean, he's done a job. It's not the best job, but he's been doing a job, and I don't know. He's learning, I guess, but probably because Glasgow was out. I think that kind of hindered his performance a bit. So
I would think definitely that had a lot to do with it. And, I envisioned that this game was going to start. The Broncos were going to run all over them, control the ball. It was just going to be, we were going to get to 500. Nothing I envisioned came true. So,
right.
but, it's, you referenced the cornerbacks when we heard that both the guys were going to be out this week, and we heard it right before the game started. I think that was kind of a precursor for what exactly ended up happening. I mean, just to switch to the defensive side, we could not stop any of their passing. I mean, it was just insane. They made Matt Ryan look like
Super Bowl
Matt Ryan.
Ryan.
Matt Ryan is prime. 28-3, Matt Ryan. But,
yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with Bosby not. Obviously Boye and Callahan, and not knowing Callahan was going to be out right before the game hit kind of sucks. But I don't think Ojemudia played that bad, but everybody else was terrible. Maybe Bassey, he wasn't bad, but it definitely would have been better with Ojemudia and Bosby.
Jamulia got his ankles broken by Julio Jones.
Who doesn't get their ankles broken by Julio Jones?
you almost couldn't fault him on that play.
No, you couldn't.
I mean,
fault him.
it's
You said it
Julio
wasn't his
Jones.
fault.
That's like being like, oh, you got beat by Randy Moss. Well, yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna learn, you got to keep your feet close to the fire, So, it's like I said before, it's not going to be the first time, and it more than likely isn't going to be the last time Ojemudia gets burned by a veteran player, not even a veteran. I think his last one was when they played the Steelers, when he got burned by Claypool. But as you go on, you live and you learn, and hopefully these are things that he can go and clean up as he progresses in his career as a Bronco. But even so, he wasn't the worst cornerback Sunday. That honor belongs to Devontae Harris.
Oh,
that guy was just
Yeah.
He was doing somersaults more than he was covering people.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like Denver had a wanted sign outside the stadium, and he was the first person to answer the want ad. That's exactly what that looked out. He was terrible.
Yeah.
And hopefully now that Bosby's back, even though he might not get the okay to play because of COVID protocols this week, at least Denver keeps the spot open for him in like third wide receiver spot, and we don't go back to this juggling thing with practice.
We hope they do.
Boye
You never
was-
know.
Yeah, Boye's was full participant practice. He's out of concussion protocol, so he should be back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Callahan was limited practice, so hopefully he comes back then too.
For
'Cause that would
Callahan, is it
definitely
the
help.
foot injury again?
It was ankle.
Ankle.
Oh, his ankle.
Yep.
so we should be healthy on the cornerback front. I think so. I think
Yeah,
but who the pressure is on is on Bosby, because when they dumped him, and then after everyone was upset, and then after the game last week, everyone was like really upset, and I was so disappointed to find out yesterday when Vic mentioned that he's not even going to be eligible to play because he has to have all these negative tests. So,
Yep.
but when he comes back, I mean, there's a lot of expectation that Bosby's going to be the savior of this of the secondary, at least from a third or fourth. So he better perform, or we
Well, there were, I was going through, because last podcast we talked about, there had to be something that was a reason why Bosby got let go instead of Harris. Well, and when I was looking around and listening to things and reading things, and it sounds like there were three things, which is why Bosby was let go. One was he doesn't do special teams, very bad at it, doesn't participate in it. Two, he's not great at tackling. He doesn't like to hit people. He doesn't like to get hit. And number three is that he's one of those corners that goes for the big play instead of staying on his assignment. So he's one of the cornerbacks that risks getting burned a lot, because I think it was 2 games ago, maybe 3 games ago, he came in right at the very end and swatted at a ball and missed it by like an inch. But then the guy ran for like 30 yards because he went for the ball instead of covering his assignment. So it sounds like those reasons are kind of why they let Bosby go. But obviously now seeing Harris play, who cares?
Yeah, that's exactly true.
Terrible.
I'll take, Bosby's not always going to play, a perfect game. He's going to make mistakes, and he's not the only cornerback in the league to do so. And I can live with it because his mistakes are limited. He doesn't give up. He has more positive play in his playbook, I think, than the negative. And the fact that Devontae Harris is even still considered depth at this point is anything beyond amazing. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Before we go any farther, Brother 101 joined us. Boana, Vic, and Ryan Hamilton. Vic coming in. Hi, all. Hope everyone is well. The gang's all here. Missed you last week, KR. And then Boana says he has some theories. I want these theories. Type them out.
Yeah, I want to hear them.
I want to know what they are.
Boana's putting his tinfoil hat together.
With a little point at the end. He's got his point. I got my little fuzzy ball.
He's like, how much time do you guys have?
One of the
you got to share him, Beast. Come on.
One of the things that I put in my reaction video was that there wasn't really any good pass rush. And then I don't know if it was from one of you or someone else that was saying that there was a pass rush, but they were like half a second too slow. And so in my reaction video, when I said that we're now seeing the results of missing Von Miller is that half second.
Yeah.
That's why we Reed is good and Chubb is, well, he's supposed to be good.
Right.
But Von Miller is that half second. So that's why not having him in, that's why we're seeing he was a little bit behind. Well, he's got that closing speed, which is in the start and the kickoff speed.
Was I the only one that was literally mad at Atachu for missing a sack on a wide open Matt Ryan, who's about as agile as Joe Flacco?
I was just going to say the same.
And not only did he throw the ball, but he threw it at a guy that was being covered by Devontae Harris, who the guy makes the catch and still runs for more yardage before he's finally tackled. I mean, that's just aggravating, And the thing that I think gave Atlanta an advantage was the fact that if we played the Falcons at the beginning of this season when they still had their original coach, I think Denver wins this hands down. But because Raheem Moore took over, even as an interim coach, you're going to make some changes on the line. You're going to make some changes at play. Now, granted, the Falcons took advantage of the fact that Denver didn't have their quarterbacks and Denver didn't have Shelby Harris, one of their best defensive tackles on the team. But, Sylvester Williams did what he was supposed to, and so did I can't pronounce his last name. Agim. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name.
Agim.
Yeah, Natal Agim. So
then Walker had a sack too. So
yeah, and Walker had a sack too. So that Atlanta team wasn't playing Denver's best. They were kind of playing Denver's borderline because there were some players that were good, like our linebackers finally showed up. Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson. They did really good at stuff in the run and keeping Gurley to at least one touchdown, which wasn't even their fault. It was because Locke turned the ball over. But other than that, the running game didn't go wild. And aside from our corners getting burned, the defense was just trying to play catch up for 3 quarters.
Yep. And this is what you get when you have a veteran quarterback that can read and he sees all your, where you're making all your mistakes. So, I mean, you can say, we could have had this game, but at the same time, we had so many patchwork players in that he's able to read that, and he's able to see, this guy is not doing his job, so I'm going to target him. And that's what happened. And that's what happened throughout the whole game.
Don, you triggered me when you first started talking. You said Raheem Moore, and it just the Jacoby Jones play just steamrolled me.
Yeah.
I know you meant Morris, but that's all right.
I made that mistake, but I didn't want to. I thought about it as I was finishing my rant. So
speaking of a guy getting burned with waving his arms up in the air,
right?
The windmill.
Let's see. Richie's giving us some theories. Theory 1: he has photos of Fangio and McMahon. Theory 2: he has pictures of Elway in a Raiders jersey.
Ooh.
Well, there's a video of Elway on a motor scooter somewhere in Denver. So,
Ryan Hamilton's got a quick question. In your hearts, what is your belief on when Von Miller will play this year, or if at all? We kind of talked about this a little bit because he says he should be good to come back in December, but some of us, maybe all four of us agreed that if we're not even going to make to the playoffs, don't come back. Like, stay out, rest, come back next year.
You know what? It seems that he has the passion. He wants to come back, whether this team is 2 wins only in the season or 3 wins only in the season, or whether they're playoff bound. Von Miller just wants to come and play. He watches the same game we do, and I'm sure he shares the same frustration that we do. And he knows that if he was out there, most of these outcomes, we'd be, talking different story. So he feels our frustration. He knows what we're going through. And, that I was going to say anxiety, but that frustration he's the only one that can do something about it, because he's the only one that can go down there and get those guys fired up. The fact that Vic Fangio in his second year hasn't really done that, like how he exploded on Tom McMahon, that's exactly how he should be in these guys' faces. If Drew Lock's playing like doo-doo, if the running backs aren't running the way they're supposed to. Yeah, I caught myself. I caught myself.
Well, there's so many other words other than doo-doo.
It's better than the latter. It's better than the latter. And so, if anybody on this team is not pulling their weight, Vic Fangio has to be in their face, because that's exactly what a head coach does. And I know he's only still in his sophomore year or whatever, but this shouldn't be something that requires more time for you to do. Just like he got in Tom McMahon's face when Tom McMahon accrued that stupid illegal substitution penalty or whatever. He needs to get in these other
that on special teams. I don't even know how you do that.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But this is the type of Fangio that we need to see on the field. If you're part of the team is screwing up or they're messing up, get in their face about it. Tell them either shape up or you're going to ride the bench. Simple as that.
No, also, Vaughn knows, there's a lot of money involved here. He might want to get himself back on the field and prove that he's still worth the money. I mean,
did you just read that comment?
What comment?
That one.
Oh, no.
If Vaughn does not want a pay cut, then he may want to come back to prove he can still play. And he's not playing that injury.
Yep. Exactly.
But his veteran leadership is so missing. I was this team is so young, and I know everybody is getting frustrated, they're impatient, but one of the things that we're so excited about is that we're building this team that once it clicks, looks like it's going to be there for quite some time. I just wanted to read something that I saw the other day. Broncos Outsider tweeted this, and it was players aged 26 or younger on the team. And I'll start with the offense alone. Drew Lock, KJ Hamler, Judy, Fant, Albert O, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Philip Lindsay, Dalton Reisner, Deshaun Hamilton, Lloyd Cushenberry. And on the defensive side, we have Simmons, Chubb, Josie Jewell, Draymond Jones, and Malik Reed. I mean, these are huge percentages of our entire starting lineup are young guys. And imagine if Vaughn had been on the field for that, on the sideline for this. I do think he would have made a difference in probably a couple of these wins.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And he's been missing. Every single game that we've lost that people have given their 2 cents about, that said this team's terrible. Every single time I've said this team is young. This team is so young. We have backups to backups. We have player squad. It's just a young team, and they're still learning, and it's going to take time. People don't want to hear it. People are done hearing it, but that's exactly what that's the truth. That's what's real.
Well, I think, we've basically covered the defense, we've covered the offense. There's 2 things we have not covered, and those are the 2 big things that every Broncos fan's talking about. Drew Lock, Pat Shurmur. We all
I'm dying to find out what you think. Oh, no.
Well, I mean, my opinion hasn't really changed. Like, I still want to see him do good. I still want to see him as quarterback. I don't want to get rid of him, but he's got to clean up his game. He's got to fix the decision-making problems. He's got to fix the mechanics, the footwork, going through his progressions, reading defenses. Like, that's all stuff he's not doing. And I know that there was a call to do a hurry-up offense the entire game. You can't do that when you have this young of an offense. That's really, really hard to do. And one of the reasons why the hurry-up offense works for Drew is because you only have that one read and throw. You don't have to go through progressions. And it kind of ties in with Pat Shurmur, and I'm going to defend Pat Shurmur a little bit, but I'm going to let you guys give your takes on Drew Lock, because I've already given mine.
The only thing that I saw that Drew Lock keeps doing that really grinds my gears is when he keeps throwing off of his back foot. Because that, to me, I'm pretty sure, even though he tells himself, like, I got to stop doing that, but yet he keeps doing it. And that's something that takes time. He needs to learn to trust his pocket, his offensive line. Because there were times where he had a clean pocket, and for some reason he decided to scramble.
Yeah.
So that you only hurt your chances of getting to the wide receiver you're trying to throw to. But like we were talking about before we went live, a lot of people are confusing this team with like the Chargers with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs. Those 2 guys set the bar for what rookie quarterbacks, according to the NFL, should be. Patrick Mahomes, when he came out, it's like, oh, I wish we had Patrick Mahomes because he came out as a rookie and he's just throwing touchdowns and he won a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert, same thing. He's flinging the ball and the guys are catching it. But you have to also understand that with those guys, Patrick Mahomes came with Andy Reid. Justin Herbert came with Anthony Lynn. They have that offense that fits their play style. So we still need to see if what Pat Shurmur is bringing to the table is what fits Drew Lock. And I, for one, think it is, because if it didn't, the Broncos wouldn't have had a single touchdown in that game. And they did. They had 3 against the Chargers, be it at the end of towards the end of the game. And they had 2 passing touchdowns and a running touchdown towards the end of the Falcons game. And yes, Drew Lock made a mistake on that throwing off his back foot when he threw a pick. But, quarterbacks are going to throw picks whether they're careful or not. And if you want a perfect example, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady didn't even throw a touchdown Sunday night. He got obliterated by the Saints. So people just need to have patience. This, like Christy said, this is a young offense. They're going to find their footing sooner or later. I don't think that getting rid of Pat Shurmur is the answer, because the last thing you need to do is getting rid of Pat Shurmur, bringing in another offensive coordinator, and then having Drew Lock learn a new play scheme, having the offensive line learn a new scheme, the wide receivers. We don't know if we're going to have OTAs or a preseason next year. And then we'll be right back to square one. So just have patience, guys. That's it.
I was surprised to hear that Locke at Missouri had 3 offensive coordinators and 3 quarterback coaches different. And he's had 2 offensive coordinators and 2 quarterback coaches. But, I'm not here to defend Drew. I am a fan. I do think he's going to be good. It does drive me nuts that some of these mechanics. I think what happens is that the thing that's driving us nuts is also the thing that we like about him, is that he's got this cockiness, his swagger, And I think because he's got a strong arm, he thinks he can make all of the throws, and it just you got to fix that. Of course, and I mentioned it in my recap after the game, was that I was really railing on him for the back foot throws, and then of course his last bomb to Jerry Jeudy was off the back foot. But when you think about that interception, Adon, is that that was the difference in the game at that point. That it turned out to be. It's unfortunate. We need to fix this. I do think that we have a great nucleus. The injuries have been devastating. We're getting guys back. The offensive line is gelling. All of a sudden, the offensive line is hurt again. We're talking about Elijah Wilkinson practicing again and potentially coming back soon.
Gosh.
And another stat, and I'm sorry to ramble on, but if Calvin Anderson starts at right tackle, I don't know if you heard this, he will be the 17th right tackle that we've had since 2014. Andrew Mason mentioned that today. That's insane. In 6 years, 17 right tackles. That is crazy.
That kind of sums up the season. I mean, we say, Drew just has to trust his line, and then at the same time, we're saying the line was crap. So, I mean, what can we chalk that up to? What can we blame it on? I mean, the line was crap, and how is he supposed to go in and trust that line? And that's why he isn't. That's why he's scrambling, and we see that. But we hope that they're working on his footwork and they're fixing his habit of scrambling, and we hope that that's what we hope. But what's the point that we say, well, they're not working on that, because look, he's not doing well.
And comparing him to those other two guys were top 10 picks. He was a second round choice.
Yep.
There was talk that he was going to be top half of the first round, but he ended up dropping. It's like we got to just. I mean, he shows enough in these other parts of the game, and some of these comebacks that there's value here. And he seems to be liked by the other guys on the offense, and which is great. They seem to be gelling, and again, they're young. They're young. Mm-hmm. This is probably a good season for us to let these guys get some experience without the crowds in the stadiums and the screaming and some of the distractions. They can gel and almost be forced to spend time together and not and learn to really be an NFL player.
Right.
So I think a few of us were on a podcast last night where they were talking about, different positions, grading different coaches. And I know that a lot of blame is put on Shermer. Richie's talking about it in the comments, talking about adjusting schemes, adjusting plays. I had said that, is it Shermer being bad or is it Drew Lock making Shermer look bad? And I said I thought it was Lock, and I kind of want to clarify that just a little bit. The scheme that Shermer's running is a scheme that is close to the scheme that Lock was running in Missouri. Shotgun, 3 wide, spread everything out. That's what he did in Missouri. So the scheme fits what Lock is good at. And play calling's been an issue, and there have been some boneheaded play calls. But the amount of play calls that are bad versus the play calls that were good, the good far surpasses the bad. My big question is whether because to me it kind of looks like Shermer is adjusting to Drew and Drew is trying to adjust to Shermer, and they're just missing it between the two of them. Because it seems like Shermer goes into the game with a game plan, and then Drew's just not connecting on throws or not reading his progressions. Because if you look at the plays as you go through, there's multiple receivers open on different levels on every play, and he's just not seeing them. So if Drew Lock was able to go through his reads, go through his progressions, and hit those receivers, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because our offense would be top 5. Because all of our receivers get open all the time. Hamler's always open. Judy especially is always open. And Fant gets open, and so does Alberto all the time. So if I don't think it's so much a Shermer problem as it is Drew and Shermer just trying to correct at the same time, and they're just missing it. So I don't necessarily have a problem with Shermer. And you can kind of see how Shermer's working with the offense. Like if you look at the overall offense, Judy's gotten better, Hamler's gotten better, Alberto's gotten better. Noah Fant has gotten better towards the second part of the season, other than the injuries. So Shermer is having a good effect on the offense. So I don't want to blame it. I'm not blaming one more than the other. I'm blaming them both the same amount. I hate it when people are like, oh, Shermer this, Shermer that, bad play called, bad. Well, it's kind of both, because if Drew wasn't having those mental mistakes and foundational mistakes, then we could follow the game plan that Shermer put in place. You know what I mean? Silence. I win.
I just don't know what to say to that right now. I have a lot of.
I mean, I think it falls on both of them equally.
It does.
Because it seems like they're trying to adjust to each other and they're just missing it. But I don't have a problem with the scheme, because it's a scheme that fits Drew Lock's talents, and he's just missing it.
Yeah, but one thing that I kind of do hope that they start doing is that they start letting Drew do audibles in the huddle, because so far Drew's only doing what's being fed into his helmet. And
okay, but at the same time, like, he's not been able to read the defense. He hasn't been able to adjust. So how is he going to call an audible?
That's what I'm saying. If they start letting him call audibles, then that means that they're trying to push him to try to learn to read a defense. But as long as they don't let him audible, then what's the point of him trying to learn if they don't push him to learn, is what I'm saying. Because we all think the same thing when it's third down, and we're always thinking, why are you throwing dump offs? Why are you trying to run the ball? You need a conversion, and we keep seeing these dump offs and just hoping that the wide receiver gets to the conversion line, which so far they haven't been able to do. And then the Broncos offense has to punt the ball away, and the defense is out there for like the umpteenth time.
And it's so predictable. And so every team can read that, and every team knows that's what's going to happen next. So they're preparing for it before it even happens. And I mean, to say that, it is both of them, and to say, that it's just one or the other is completely wrong. But at the same time, Shermer is they're feeding him this in his ear, and he's wanting to please them and do what he's told. And so that's what he's doing. And so I think, like, if they just let him go, like, unleash him, let him go, let's see what he has. Let's see if he has it. Let's see, what exactly we're working with here. But we're prolonging this all season, prolonging it. Just let him play. And then we can see exactly what we're working with. And then we can tell, is Drew the guy? Yes or no?
Glenn, what'd you break?
I just quickly paid my internet bill just a second ago, but so I missed what you guys were talking about. Sorry about that, but I think we can't underscore, and again, I know all the teams are in the same boat. We're not, but there are different circumstances, and the fact that these guys have not been able to sit side by side in a room for the last several months, getting everything squared. It's one thing to be on a Zoom call or be studying your playbook on your iPad and things like that, and trying to get learn other ways. It can't replace any of that one-on-one. And again, I know there are other rookie quarterbacks that are doing well. There are other second-year quarterbacks that are doing well. But I think in this instance, and coupled with the injuries and the fact that, Cortland Sutton was out right away or very early on, makes a huge difference. He was the go-to guy. And of course, now we were all excited about Alberto coming in, and now he's hurt and he's done.
Towards ACL, yeah. I think there's one thing that concerns me, and that is that Drew Lock continues to play how he has been playing. He shows those flashes of being a really good quarterback, but then consistently he's only showing flashes in certain parts of games or certain games. And then we decide, oh, well, he shows flashes, we're going to stick with him. And then we don't, we miss out on, say, trading for Sam Darnold or Matthew Stafford or a Matt Ryan or, a couple of these rookies, not Lawrence or Field. We're not going to be that far in the draft. But, my fear is that he continues to play how he has and we don't get a quarterback and it ends up burning us next year. That's the one thing that makes me nervous is that we're going to miss out on a quarterback and, holding on to hope instead of, what we actually need.
I'm actually good with that. I don't want to dip back into the whole quarterback thing and take a chance with Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or what have you. Because I don't think that especially John Elway is ready to give up on Drew Lock. The only way he gives up on him is if Drew Lock goes completely bust for the rest of this season and next season where he just plays like crap and, there's no improvement. He doesn't show that he's, the guy. And then it's like, okay, we have to rebuild. And that in itself would be another step back. And when you're in a division with the Super Bowl champion Chiefs, the up-and-coming Chargers, and the up-and-down Las Vegas Raiders, it leaves little room for error, And we have we have the tools. And to quote something that I said earlier before we went live as well, that I read in a power rankings column, that they said that the Broncos shouldn't blame everything on the injury list or the injury bug, but it shouldn't go ignored. So that's exactly how it is. Because if the Chiefs didn't have Patrick Mahomes or Tyreek Hill, would they still be what they are now? If Tyrod Taylor doesn't get hurt, would they still be where they are now with Herbert? Even though that they've only won 2 games, but Herbert has been, shiny instead of holding a clipboard like most rookie quarterbacks do in their first year. So it just like I've been saying, it just takes time. I know it sucks having to see your team go 3 quarters and not put up a point. It's terrible. It brings up memories of the last 5 years. But let's face it, when Peyton Manning walked away and rode into the sunset, as optimistic and as diehard Broncos fans as we are, there is no way that we can honestly say like, oh, it's going to be easy to fill his shoes. And it hasn't been easy. Look at every single quarterback that's come in and try, and they failed. Whether they were new, whether they were free agent, or whether they're veteran, it hasn't worked. And Drew Lock, to me, is the closest we have to trying to maybe not exceed what Peyton Manning did, but to at least try to get close to that.
Okay, well then let me ask you 3 this question. Let's say, hypothetically, that Drew Lock plays the remaining 8 games exactly the way he's played the first 8. Do we stick with him or do we get a quarterback?
Like I said, he's Elway's guy, and I don't see Elway giving up on him. I honestly don't.
That's a tough question.
Right?
That's really tough.
Well, and Maddox 2015 saying there are no QBs after Lawrence. Well, that's not entirely true. There's Trey Lance from North Dakota State, and he would fall about where we would draft. But I mean, if Drew Lock plays the rest of the season like he's played the first half, how can you pass up on, getting a trade for Sam Darnold or Matthew Stafford or Matt Ryan at the end of his career or, a quarterback like that to hold the fort down for a year or 2 or 3 while you get a quarterback and
you'd want the Broncos
Who
to trade
wants
for
that?
Sam Darnold?
Dude, he plays for the Jets. Everybody's is terrible on the Jets.
So
Sam
that's what you're
Darnold
saying. You want the Broncos to trade for Sam Darnold?
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but at the end of the year and after we see what Drew Lock does.
There's a reason why the Jets are going to cut Sam Darnold
There's a reason.
Because
and go
they're
for
the
Trevor
Jets.
Lawrence. Exactly. And if Sam Darnold couldn't cut it on the Jets, there is no way that he can come to Denver and say, "Hey, I'm going to resurrect my career here with the Broncos." No.
Okay,
it's not gonna happen.
but we all agree that Lawrence is a phenomenal college talent, right? He's a phenomenal quarterback.
I don't watch college football, so I don't know.
Let's say he gets drafted to the Jets and is terrible. Why do you think that is? Because the Jets suck. The Jets are terrible.
Yeah, but Adam Gase is out the door.
We're in right now.
Yeah, Adam Gase is out the door. That whole Jets front office is more than likely going to look different come September of 2021. Quarterback, front office, coach, even the GM maybe. I don't know.
If Locke continues to play the way he has the remaining games as he has in the first 8, yeah, I'd consider it.
No, not Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. You get Sam Darnold, and it's the same thing as having Flacco. It's the same thing.
I'd prefer Matt Ryan or Matthew Stafford.
I would rather have Stafford.
Yeah, I'd rather have one of those two.
I don't even know why we're talking about this right now.
Matthew Stafford is not 60 years old.
We do not need to go back to Peyton Manning 3.0. Peyton Manning 2.0 plan didn't work. There's no need to go back to a Peyton Manning 3.0.
No, but I'm just saying, like, there's going to come a point in time this season where we're going to have to decide, like, okay, Drew Lock has been playing like this. Do we stick with him? Or do we go get a quarterback that we know is good?
So you want Phillip Rivers, or what are you saying? No. Like anybody? Like it just anybody?
Well, okay, but take Phillip Rivers on the Colts. Phillip Rivers on the Colts is better than Phillip Rivers with the Chargers.
I mean, so then you're in the same position that we were before. I mean,
Peyton Manning 3.0.
You don't have your franchise guy. You don't have your young quarterback. People have to calm down. It takes time to develop that type of quarterback. Nobody just comes in, except for the freak Patrick Mahomes, comes in and just is that guy. There's nobody.
It sounds like that's what Mike wants. He wants Patrick Mahomes. In Denver.
Why would
you got an extra $7,100,000,000? No.
I don't want Patrick Mahomes because even if you get Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid doesn't come with him. See, that's what you have to understand. Patrick Mahomes is great because of Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, whatever his last name is. If Patrick Mahomes had gone to Chicago, I can honestly tell you that he would not be having the career he's having now because Matt Nagy is not Andy Reid. Yeah. Same thing with Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson had gone to Chicago instead of going to Houston, Deshaun Watson would not be having the same career because he's not whoever their offensive coordinator is. I don't remember. So it all comes down to coaching, Mike. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And you have to remember that Drew Lock was intentionally supposed to be a New York Giant. Pat Shurmur was the guy that he wanted. That was the guy he wanted, but Dave Gettleman, the GM, jumped ahead of him and picked Daniel Jones. So right now we could be sitting here talking about Daniel Jones, the Broncos quarterback, playing terrible. So count your blessings, my guy. Count your blessings.
So are blaming this on Shurmur then?
But all I'm saying is like you three aren't even discussing another quarterback
because we don't need one.
Not right now.
Tell me through these last 8 games how you can see that Drew Lock is the future quarterback of the Broncos. Tell me. Go ahead and tell me. Through the last 8 games, explain to me how Drew Lock is the future of the quarterback.
I'll tell you one reason right now. And this is good. You have to listen.
I'm listening.
You have to be patient.
That's a terrible
No.
I have to be patient. Right. That's why he's the future.
She's right.
Locke has shown us what he can do in how many games?
3 quarters. 3 quarters.
I'm talking about the games that he's played.
Yes, and I'm saying he's looked good. He's looked good in 3 quarters.
Okay, perfect.
Not games, 3 quarters.
So he's shown us this, that he can be good in 3 quarters. Okay. And you're ready to just toss him out.
No, I'm saying that if he continues to play like he's been playing, we have to have a conversation about another quarterback. And you guys aren't even willing to take that. I'm saying 32 quarters, and he's been good in 3. 32 quarters. He's been good in 3.
Oh, come on.
Has he really played in 32 quarters?
No, he missed 2 games? A game and a half?
3 games.
He's out for 3 games. He
when you
hasn't played
start
that.
when you start doing that,
You know what,
consider
Jimmy,
another quarterback. You have to remember, Mike, that it doesn't really push every single person. Because think about it: if you were Drew Lock, and at the end of the season, John Elway sits you in his office and tells you that we're considering another quarterback, is that going to push you to try to play better, or is that make you think like, oh, you know what? Well, it doesn't seem like the club is behind me, so why should I go out and give it my all if they don't believe that I'm the guy, that I'm the answer?
Well,
And I'm saying that he's not playing terrible. I'm saying if he's playing the way he is now, where he's not giving up plays, but he's still making touchdowns. His QBR is still better than most quarterbacks in some of these weeks, and he stays healthy and not injured.
He's the worst rated quarterback in the NFL.
I'm talking about every week.
I'm
talking
talking.
about QBR.
I'm talking in the NFL through 8 weeks. He's the worst rated quarterback in the league.
He played better than Tom Brady.
No, he's
So
the worst
he
quarterback
outrushed-
in the
He
NFL.
outrushed-
Yeah, because see, I'm talking, Mike. I'm talking
So
weekly QBR. You're talking seasonal
outrushed-
QBR.
You know, he
well, I mean, we're
outrushed
talking about a
and
bunch of
Gordon.
pieces here right now. I can hardly hear Glenn.
Yeah,
Right,
Glenn,
Go
we
ahead,
can
Glenn.
Nobody's
barely
saying
hear you.
that- I was saying no one's saying that you should get rid of Gordon and Lindsey because they had a bad game the other day. You know, it's
That's
what
not
I think
even the
is gonna
same
happen, to
thing.
Mike's point. No, but what I'm saying is of course they're going to look at their options. They're going to look at, you know, they're going to make considerations and possibly decide to do something. You know, there were rumors that the reason that Tua even got to start now was that because the Dolphins hold the number 1 pick of the Texans, they needed to see if this guy was going to be their guy of the future in case they had to draft one of the stars that's coming out next year. Whether that's a true rumor or not, a true fact or not, that remains to be seen. But the point is all the teams are going to be making these assessments, but for the options for us, and the guy literally has had a new coach every friggin' year. It's like, come on, he hasn't shown that he's a terrible, worthless player. I just don't see it. I mean, I don't know what happened from the time that he got hurt against the Steelers to now, but everyone turned on him that Monday. It was the weirdest thing. I don't understand it, but hopefully the guy can redeem himself. I'm sure, he seems like a confident person, and I don't think he's going to give up the fight. But my goodness, this is like, enough already.
Yeah.
Let's trying to grab some comments here. Let's go with Vic. So Sam ain't bad. C. Stafford's better. Chris Hernandez, different tactics,
how Mike
and he put. Oh, I'm getting to him. Put motivate in there. Different people. Lindsey stepped up when they brought in another running back, so it might help. It might not.
Okay, so and I'm glad that he said that too, and also Adon, because the Broncos have a problem with this. Okay, they seem to think by bringing in another quarterback that they're going to motivate this guy, and they've done this throughout the years. And you can go back and you can look, but this is what they do with quarterbacks. They bring in this next guy who's supposed to outplay him, and essentially, it doesn't work out, and Broncos country gets hope up, and this is the next guy, and this is the next guy, and this is no, the next guy is the guy that you're going to stop. You're going to take time. You're going to take patience. You're going to wait. Elway didn't start out as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Elway knows that. Tom Brady didn't start out that way. All of that took time. And it took time for them to learn and to grow together as a team. Right now, this team can't even grow together because they're not all playing at the same time all the time. Every single week, we have this guy's different, and this guy's different, and that guy's different. You have to let it go. I mean, just let them play, and we'll see what they have together. When they finally all get together, it's going to work. And people just don't want to wait. They want it now. And that's just how it is.
Maddox 2015. Look at Josh Allen. It took him 3 years. It took him 2. But he's not playing as bad as Drew Lock. Yeah, I think that about does it with the comments. I will say one more thing. When you're saying, hold on, when you're saying that it took John Elway time and it took Tom Brady time, true, but that's not how the NFL works now. Like, if you're a rookie, you come in and you play good, or you get replaced.
Right,
Like, it's been that way for the last 5 years.
That's a huge problem. And there's been articles written about this. It's a huge problem with the NFL. It's a throwaway quarterback, and you can't just keep having these guys come in from college and they're banking on we're going to play in the NFL, and you're bringing up these guys here to play in the NFL, and then you're just throwing them away. And you can't just keep doing that. You can't keep throwing away quarterbacks, because none of the quarterbacks that I've seen in my lifetime that are great quarterbacks, that are the greatest quarterbacks that have ever played, ever came in and just, played all out and were Super Bowl winning quarterbacks right away. They all took time. All of them.
I don't know about that one.
Every single one of them.
We do. Drew Lock needs the rest of the season. And he does need, him and Shermer's not going anywhere. And,
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Or not. I'm just saying.
They brought someone else in. They would. Drew would not be on the team next year. I'm convinced of that.
Right. Well, and that's. I'm not saying like replace him right now. I don't want to get rid of Drew Lock. I want to see him and Sherman together figure it out. What I'm saying is, let's say 6 games down the road, we got 2 games left. Drew Lock has not improved at all. What do? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about right now. We've got to let Drew Lock continue to grow, continue to learn, figure it out with Shermer. But by the end of the season, with a couple games left, if he hasn't figured it out yet, do you stick with him and risk him playing like this next year, or do you get a quarterback that is a good quarterback? That's what we got to figure out.
Yeah.
So let's.
Can we say that the same thing about Shermer? Did Shermer do well in his last gig?
No.
Well, but there's a big difference between being a head coach and being an offensive coordinator, because you can't sit there and tell me that Josh McDaniels is a terrible offensive coordinator. He's a terrible head coach, but he's a really good offensive coordinator.
Well, you're looking at probably the future coach of the New England Patriots.
Good. Then they can suck when he gets there, kind of like they do right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, the offense is looking better as far as, the scheme wise, who's getting the ball, where the ball is being thrown, who's being featured. Like, we're seeing that there are adjustments being made, and that the offense is ready to take off. What I'm saying is the mix of Shermer trying to fix it and Drew Lock trying to fix it isn't working, because they're trying to do it at the same time.
I agree with that.
One's got to take a back seat and chill. And normally that would be the quarterback, because he's not the coach. Let Shermer do what he wants. If it fails, get rid of Shermer. But we can't have them fighting each other for figuring out the offense. That's where I think the biggest problem is.
I can go with that. I can get on board with that. But I really think the reason that you see these guys starting to click a little bit, here and there, is because they're getting the play time together. And once again, we're back to the point where it just takes time for them to do that.
So let's, now that we've spent way too much time on this, let's move to the Broncos Raiders game. I'm going to be honest. I'm nervous. The Raiders are not the Raiders of old. Derek Carr's having a career year. You can hate him all you want, but he's playing really good. Jacobs they're going to be their starter for a long time. Their defense has been average, maybe a little better than average. But they're consistent. And that's the one thing that seems to be kicking the crap out of the Broncos every week.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you see?
I think the Broncos' chances of winning this game are pretty much the same that they had going into Atlanta. Las Vegas, they look good on paper, but sometimes what you read on paper isn't what you see on film. And that's exactly what Las Vegas is. They get stomped by Tampa Bay, then they go and they win the charge against the Chargers. So even with our key injuries being out, I still think the Broncos have the advantage. So as long as we get both of our cornerbacks back in, which it seems like we will, and the linebackers can keep that same line of play that they did last week against Todd Gurley, I can see the Broncos getting a win.
I think that they're going to have to really, their first half performance is really going to have to step up. They can't come in like they did last game and expect to win against the Raiders.
If we could just switch like the fourth quarter and the first, like run it up big in the first and then hold them off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
So injury-wise, it looks
Waller's
like
scared the most, though. That's the one.
Yeah, kind of like with Kelsey, and I don't think like covering the tight ends hasn't been that bad, but Alexander Johnson is not great in pass defense, and I'm not even going to mention Honey Bear in pass defense because holy crap, like he can stuff the run, but don't ever let him get outside and run. He's the slowest person on the face of the planet. I'm pretty sure that DeMar Dotson with a bad ankle could beat Honey Bear in a race.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close game, honestly. And if the Broncos can run away with it, great. It'll silence some of the haters that they've been getting the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But this is a game that the Broncos have to win because after this game, the schedule gets pretty tough.
Yeah, we got what's after that? We got
the Dolphins and then the Saints.
Yep. And it looks like injury-wise, Jerry Jeudy limited practice, Bryce Callahan limited, Joe Jones, he hasn't even really played. Tim Patrick was limited. Jake Rogers did not practice. So who's the backup to Jake Rogers? If Dotson can't go. If you say Wilkinson, I'm going to slap you.
No, it's not Wilkinson. Wilkinson's not cleared to play.
Calvin Anderson.
Good.
They'll probably have to bring somebody up from practice. If not, they don't sign anybody from free agency.
Calvin Anderson.
Okay.
There you go.
And then Deontay Spencer was limited practice as well.
Yeah.
The Raiders got a lot of limited and did not. Like Colton Miller, their tackle, did not practice. Jonathan Abram didn't practice. Their other tackle, Sam Young, was limited in practice. Other than that, it looks like that's about it. So none of their key players are out. Chris Hernandez jumping in with, I'm concerned about our run defense against the Raiders. It didn't seem like our run defense was all that good in the last game. Like we got smoked on a couple plays. And I'm assuming that's because Harris wasn't in there. And we're not going to have him again. So,
right.
Do we even have anybody to, other McTelvin Agim was all right. He didn't play great, but how much of not getting a pass rush or holding out on the run was because the secondary just couldn't stop anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's go with Raiders, Broncos picks. What do you got?
Broncos.
I'm not even going to ask Christy because we all know she has a hate in her heart for the Raiders.
I don't even want to talk about this game. Like, to be honest with you, I don't even know what words to say right now. I just don't want to talk about it. I don't pick the Raiders to win ever.
Except for last week we weren't here. I picked them for you.
Yeah, I didn't pick them. I even said it. No.
I picked them for you.
No.
Yeah, might have happened.
Glenn, what do you think?
So,
I think he's
27-20.
Oh, we're doing scores?
Yeah,
Oh,
do
we're gonna do
scores.
score.
We do it.
Okay.
every
Oh, no,
single
I thought
time.
we were just doing the who do we think we're going to win? I didn't know we were doing scores yet.
Yeah, scores. 27-20 Broncos for Glenn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, 27-20. Like I said, it's going to be a close game.
I'd say our defense kind of shows up, and the Raiders don't. They don't play well against our defense, so I'm gonna say it's gonna be a lower score for them. I don't know. It'll be close though. It's probably gonna be like 21-26.
For the
Something like
Raiders,
that.
right?
No.
I'm
Never.
going 28-21 Raiders.
Of course you are.
Sorry.
Yeah.
AFC West predictions. Glenn, you are firmly in the lead, 19-9. 6'10" and Chris here at 17-11, and I'm gaining ground at 15-13. The only other one we got is Chargers and Dolphins because the Chiefs got a bye this week.
Dolphins.
Hmm.
I'm picking Dolphins
Oh.
also.
Dolphins.
Yeah.
Tua's on a bit of a roll, so
I'm gonna say Dolphins.
Okay, I'm going to go Chargers.
you stay in that basement, Mike. You stay there.
Hey, I'm climbing my way out.
I was.
can gain
I
that
I almost chose the Chargers just because they have some more film on Tua, and
Well, we haven't even really seen anything from Tua. Like, the defense has been so good. He hasn't even had to do anything yet.
right. So
All right, so we're going to go ahead and head out. It is about that time. So again, we want to remind you, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, we are streaming on all 4 of those. On YouTube, go to our channel and give us a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications so that you know every single time that we upload. We do live streams, and then we also do about 2 videos a day, just to kind of give you some shorter clips to watch. Follow us on Twitter at MHRT Podcast. Leave us any questions, concerns, comments. Facebook, like and follow. And we are going to go ahead and head out, watch the game tonight, and make sure you check out the Broncos game this weekend. We'll see who's right in their picks. So everybody have a great weekend. It was fun being here with you.
Likewise.
go Broncos.
Oh yeah.